Hello, everyone, and welcome to our free training Fridays from Abacus Next. My name is Chris Tober. I'm a software trainer here at Abacus Next. And before we get underway, I'm just going to run through some housekeeping items. Because of the number of people on this webinar, all attendees are muted upon entry. If you have any questions for me during this session, please submit them to me using the question feature in the GoToWebinar panel on the right hand or the right side of your screen. Certainly going to make every effort to answer these questions at the end of the session. If we run out of time, however, or if there are any remaining questions that have not been addressed, we will respond to these via email. But with that, let's get started. All right, so welcome again for those of you that have just joined. Our free training Friday, this Friday, is Advanced Task Options in Amicus Attorney. And really, when we're talking about tasks, we're going to be touching on two items. The first is to customize event categories. So you're able to assign categories to all of your to-dos as well as your appointments to better keep track of them. And then we're also going to look at progressive to-do priorities, so controlling where those to-dos appear in your tasks list and being able to kind of move those up automatically to bring them to prominence. All right, so today we're going to be working in Bobby Donnell's training office. You should see that on your screen right now. Just a quick note, this is Amicus, the newest version of Amicus Attorney. It is not out for the general public at this point. However, it will be released very soon. But otherwise, everything that we do today will be exactly the same in your current version of Amicus Attorney. So we'll get started. The first thing that we're going to look at are our event categories. So longtime Amicus users will know that, for example, when I create either an appointment or a to-do, I do have the option to set a category. And that way, I'm able to either filter by category. I'm also able to leverage our reporting services to generate reports based on a particular to-do or event category. So I'll open up the appointment that I have right now for free training Fridays, and you'll notice that we have category, client work general, and we do have a number of additional categories that I can set for this particular appointment. Now, most of these categories do ship with Amicus, so out of the box, Amicus comes with a number of categories, but you can, of course, customize this list to your own liking. To do so, you will need to be an Amicus administrator. So this is a firm setting, only accessible by your Amicus administrator. And in your firm settings, you have event categories. If I click on event categories, you'll notice that we have the same list that we were seeing a few moments ago when we were toggling the different categories on that appointment. And you can see them all here. Again, this is what ships with Amicus. However, as you can see here, we can add new categories. And we'll create one for very important work, click apply, and that category will be available to everyone in the firm, and I can always move it up the list. That way it'll be the first option, for example, in the dropdown. Now you'll notice that client work general has a color, a yellow color behind it. You can customize the event categories to have their own color. It's called the unified color scheme in Amicus. And the way Amicus ships is that there is no color scheme. Everything is blank or white. However, much like we did with Client Work General here, where we assigned it this yellow color, we can assign very important work a color simply by selecting it, clicking Edit, and you'll notice here there's a little drop down, and I can associate a color with it. Click Apply, and we're done. Right, I can do the same for court. Let's say I want to give court a ominous black color. Apply, and done. And you can also add separators. I apologize, that should have worked, but yes, you can add separators, much like this one down here, where, for example, there it is, it's now appeared. You can move this up and down the list, right? And that way, you can kind of segment all of your categories, and that's more for organizational purposes. The one thing to keep in mind is when you are adding colors or modifying the event categories, such as adding categories or changing the name of color categories, these changes will not take effect for any users other than the administrator until that user logs out of Amicus and then logs back in. For the Amicus administrator, these changes will be immediate, but as I said, everyone else will have to log out of Amicus and then log back in. And now, if I go to my calendar, and let's go ahead and schedule a court appointment for 4 o'clock today. And you'll notice that the list has now changed. Very important work is there. Court is also there. And we'll customize or change the title, attend at court, put in a location, and we're good to go. And so, as I said, customizing your event categories is a key way to manage all of your appointments. Attorneys, paralegals, anyone working in the law firm can attest, right? The day is busy enough as it is, and this way we can bring a little bit more sanity to that day. The next area we're going to look at are progressive priorities. And a progressive priority basically means that if you have a to-do, and this is only for to-do, and in Amicus parlance, we call them to-dos. You may also call them tasks. In a to-do, we have the option to create a priority or a progressive priority, which means basically that a to-do will start at a certain priority and then will continue to move up the priority list automatically on a day-to-day basis. So for example, I had a to-do, and let's actually go to the tasks module. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button there. We had a to-do that I created yesterday, and you'll notice that it is set for high. If I open up that to-do, we can see that progressive priority has been set. And what happened was I created this to-do yesterday. Its priority was actually average, but because I have the progressive priority to based on every one business day, this morning when I logged into Amicus, I saw that this to-do was set for high. So essentially, any to-do that you assign a progressive priority to will climb your list, thereby gaining in prominence and finally sitting at the very top of your list to better identify those to-dos that need to be attended to. Creating a to-do with a progressive priority is very easy. You simply create any task or to-do as you would normally. And you'll notice that I have my to-dos automatically set to be progressive. This is a preference, and I'll show you how to change that in a few moments, where you can say all of my to-dos will be progressive. So where this priority for this to-do is average, if I maintain progressive priority based on every 3 days, 3 business days, that means that on Wednesday, if this to-do has not been marked as done or complete, it will climb the list from average to high. And then 3 days thereafter, or 3 business days thereafter, it will go to top. Now, enabling progressive priorities can be done on a to-do by to-do basis, which means that you don't necessarily need to turn it on by default. I have it turned on, so every time I create a new task, it will automatically give it a progressive priority based on every 3 business days. So let's go ahead and see how to turn that option on. Turning on progressive priorities is fairly straightforward. You simply go to your preferences, and this is a user by user setting, which means that one person can turn on progressive priorities at your firm and the rest of them do not necessarily want to have that feature enabled. If I go to preferences, calendar new entries, so there isn't actually a tasks or to-do section in your preferences, so it's been kind of unceremoniously lumped in with new entries or with the calendar new entries. And if I go to calendar new entries, you can see that we have progressive turned on. If I turn that off, click apply, click OK, and go back to my tasks module, the next task that I create will have progressive priorities turned off. So you are able to basically, on a user by user level, determine whether or not progressive priorities works for you. Now, people always ask, is there a way to change the priority names? Average doesn't sound dramatic enough. That is also customizable. However, you will need to be an Amicus administrator because this is a firm-wide setting. If we go to firm settings, priorities, you'll notice that we have our priority list here, and we can edit these. Now, we cannot add new priorities. The reason being is that because Amicus integrates with Outlook, Outlook demands a certain number of priorities, so Amicus cannot exceed or be less than that number. So you are able to modify these, but you are not, unfortunately, able to add additional priorities. For example, you may wish to make top sound a little bit more important by changing it to mission critical. Click apply. And again, this change will not be reflected until all of your users have logged out of Amicus and then logged back in.
Yeah, now if you go to your firm settings in Amicus and you go under...
One other thing to note in our tasks, right, we do, of course, also give you the option of setting a deadline for a to-do. The deadline will also essentially do what progressive priorities also do. If I do set a deadline, for example, for today, that means that this to-do will immediately go to the top of my list. It will now be in a red color, as you can see here, to signify that today is the deadline. If I exceed the deadline or I do not mark it as done before the deadline, it turns a purple color here, as you can see here. So we have five to-dos that have missed their deadline. So that is another way where Amicus will assign progressive priority. It'll do so automatically, however. Even if you have progressive priority turned off on any of these to-dos, Amicus will step in and decide that because you set a deadline for this to-do, it is going to take over and move that to-do to the top of the list, regardless of what its priority level is. And as I said, we'll color code them red if today is the deadline and purple if you have missed the deadline. If there is no deadline, as you can see with most of these to-dos, Amicus will not assign it a color. It will not move it up or down the list unless it has progressive priority set. And of course, you can also see all of your to-dos in your calendar module as always, right? In addition to your calendar, right, you also have all of your to-dos. And again, Amicus will take over and order this list based on either progressive priorities or on deadlines that you may have set. If there is no deadline, Amicus doesn't give it a color, does not change its priorities. It simply keeps tabs of how long a particular to-do has been on your list. All right, well, that wraps up our topics for today. Before we move on to the question and answer period, we just have a couple of polls that we would like to ask, and we always value, of course, your input. So the first poll, more information on APC? For those of you that are not familiar with APC, that's Abacus Private Cloud. All of your data resides in the cloud in a safe and secure environment. It also means that you can access your data from anywhere in the world, provided, of course, that you have an internet connection. If you would like more information on APC, we certainly encourage you to reach out to your sales representative. Otherwise, there is a handout also available in your GoToWebinar panel that you can download. So I'll just give a few more moments for everyone to vote. And we do have a second poll, which I'll bring up right now. And this one is, what areas of Amicus Attorney would you like to see more about in future webinars? So we have a couple of options on your screen. Amicus Client Portal, capturing time in Amicus Attorney, document assembly, which is always a very popular one, Amicus Payment Exchange, or APX, and custom pages and records, also a very popular training topic that we do quite often.
Right.
So I'll just give a few more moments for everyone to register their vote. All right, and thank you very much for all of your feedback. Now with that, I'd like to open up the floor for questions. You can put those questions in through the GoToWebinar panel. And again, that's in the right-hand corner of your screen. It's a chat box. And I'll be certainly very happy to answer those. I do see a couple have already come in. So while we wait for everyone else to type in their questions, I'll address those first. The first question is, can I automatically delegate tasks to others? I'm assuming by delegate tasks to others, we're going to be assigning them to other people. And yes, absolutely, you can do so. By default, when you create a to-do, or even an appointment, but in this case, we're talking about to-dos, when we create a to-do in Amicus, that to-do is automatically assigned to you. So in this case, Bobby Donnell. We can, on a to-do by to-do basis, go in and change the person. So if I wanted to assign this particular task or to-do to Shirley Schmidt, I could do so. You can also automate this step by going to your preferences. And under preferences, if we return to calendar new entries, you'll see that we do have the option to set default assignment. Currently, that is set to myself, of course. However, I can change that. Let's change that to Jack McCoy this time. We can also do it for multiple people. So every time I create a to-do, I want that to-do to also be assigned to Jack and Shirley. I can leave both of them on the list, including myself. Click OK, apply, OK. And then when I return to create a task, you'll notice that both Bobby, of course, as well as Shirley and Jack are now automatically assigned to this to-do. So this will go in their to-do lists as well. And thank you very much for that question. The next question, what is a linked event? That is an excellent question. It's not something that we really touched upon in today's training. However, just for those that are curious, a linked event is an event that is linked with another event. For example, if we have a appointment, in this case, let's make this an appointment. We have a attend at court, and we'll make this for, let's say, next Friday. And we'll add that to our calendar. We can also make another event determined basically on a primary to-do or appointment. So let's go over and look at next Friday, just so we can see our attend at court. So there it is, attend at court. Right? And let's say I also wanted to create a to-do to report back to the client based on what occurred at court. Let's go ahead. We can either create a new item right here, or we could, of course, go to the tasks module. This is going to be a to-do that is going to be linked with an appointment. So actually, we'll just stay here and we'll click new. Because I clicked new in the calendar module, Amicus assumes that this is going to be an appointment. I'm going to change that to a to-do. And I'm going to label this to-do report back to client. Right, and as we did before, right, this to-do will now be assigned to everyone. However, I can say, in this case, I'm going to be the one reporting back to the client. Now, to link the event, the two events rather, we can go to links, new, we'll say yes to save, and then we need to find the appointment. We'll do exactly, so the appointment was on the Friday. We'll search for that appointment. And I have a whole bunch of different things in here, but let's find that attend at court. And here we're going to be establishing the link between the two events. So we have link this event to do, report back to client as the dependent event, to this event, appointment, attend at court as the master event. So I can say we're going to schedule this to do to occur one business day after the master event. If I click save, you'll notice that the date is December 26th on this to-do, and you'll notice that it's grayed out, and that's because it's linked to a master event. So we can't change this date because we stipulated that it's going to take place one business day after attend at court. Attend at court, of course, is happening on a Friday, so this would be Tuesday, and Amicus is smart enough to recognize that December 25th, which is registered in our holiday calendar for our firm, so Amicus knows to skip that day. Now watch what happens if I change the date. In this case, we'll assume that the date of court has changed, and let's move it into the new year. We'll set it for Wednesday, January 3rd. Click OK. Now if I go to my to-dos or tasks, and I find my report back to clients, I seem to be not seeing it here, my apologies. I'm sure somebody in the audience is seeing it and shouting at their screen, but what we'll do then is we'll just search on a timeline view here. There it is. So report back to client, right, has moved from automatically, we didn't have to change report back to client, has moved from December 26th to Thursday, January 4th. And so that is a linked event. It's a more advanced feature in Amicus Attorney. You can really get into some pretty complex linkages between all of your events, and then you could save those links as a precedent or workflow. Thereby, if you have kind of the same procedures that you do on any given file, you can leverage those precedents to really speed up and automate the assignment of tasks as well as scheduling of appointments. Really great question, and as I said, a more advanced feature in Amicus, we certainly do recommend taking the time for training. We do, of course, offer that on a one-to-one basis, which means that you and the trainer would basically go through your typical workflow and thereby customize a precedent for you and your firm. All right, let's open it up and see what other questions have come through. There's a question about APC. APC, as I said before, is Amicus Private Cloud. And as I said before, it is all of your data in the cloud. So Amicus would be running in the cloud for you. It really, as I said, makes it very convenient in the sense that you can log in and access your data from anywhere in the world. It also certainly helps cut down on IT costs. All of the hardware is handled by us, which negates the need, for example, to have a server at your firm and make sure that that server is always running properly and there are no issues. And again, I just want to remind you, there is a handout in the GoToWebinar panel. All right, someone is asking about custom calendars. Excellent question. So custom calendars allow you the flexibility of creating calendar sets and thereby kind of just with 2 clicks being able to access those. So in addition, of course, to seeing my calendar, I can see other people in the firm's calendar. Shirley and Jack are in my work group, which means that I can immediately click on their names and bring up their calendars. If I needed to, I could bring up the full list of all of our firm members and view their calendars that way. A custom calendar, however, is a calendar set, as I said, that you create. Currently, we're looking at a custom calendar that I created. It's called the Partners Calendar, which brings up the calendar for Heather, George, and myself, as well as a combined view. I have a couple of other custom calendars. We have one for conference rooms that, again, I created. This one enables me to see the calendars for both of our shared resources. So at my firm or my fictional firm, we have 2 conference rooms, and here I'm able to see if anyone booked any time in either of those in either of those conference rooms. Creating a custom calendar is very easy. You simply select custom, and a wizard will walk you through the who, how, when, and what. And then after that, you'll be able to save and show, which means that you'll always be able to access this custom calendar or just simply show it if you're just using this on a ad hoc or one-off basis. Just a quick tip, everyone in the firm has their own custom calendars. So if I create a custom calendar that I really like, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else will like it. So they're gonna have to create their own custom calendars to suit their needs.
Next, is there a way to create deadlines or milestones automatically every time a probate case is open? And the answer is yes.
All right, so I don't see any additional questions, certainly. I do encourage you, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those into the chat, and I'll leave 1 more minute to do so. Otherwise, we will start wrapping things up. And I apologize, this should have been flipped.
Precedent is simply a series of events.
All right, so I don't see any other questions. If there are any last minute questions, please feel free to throw those into the chat. In terms of what now, certainly, and we've touched upon this already, if you have any questions about training or support, please visit us on the web, and you can also sign up for upcoming webinars as well. And we'll just wrap things off by quickly showing where you can access that information on the web. If you visit our websites, and I'll just go to our actual website here, abacusnext.com, and you select more, professional services, select your products, select training, and here you can see we have 2 options available for our trainings. We have a 1-hour session or a 2-hour session. We have some suggested training topics, but as these are interactive and one-on-one, you can certainly customize all of your training to suit your needs. We run, of course, these types of training sessions rather, but we also offer fully customized training sessions based on your needs or requirements. We also do informal Q&A type sessions where everyone sits around and asks questions, and we go through those in a fully interactive environment. We have the same screen, we have the same Amicus, and we're able to work together collaboratively to accomplish our training goals. All right, with that, this wraps up this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope that you found this session informative and useful. If you have any questions about this webinar or need information on future webinars, as I said, you can go over to our website. If you're interested in pursuing further training, again, on our website, you can go ahead and book either 1 or 2-hour sessions. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the Friday and an extraordinary weekend.